I read the Washington Post, the New York Times. I watch CNN, MSNBC. I'll say you don't have to. Regarding the New York Times this morning, here's the headline. More Democrat governors are saying that masks can come off in schools. Yesterday, New York Times writes, Democrat governors in Connecticut, Delaware, New Jersey, Oregon all announced the end of their statewide mandates on masks. Takes effect next week, in the coming weeks. And the New Jersey governor, Phil Murphy, said this is a, quote, huge step towards normalcy. Now, CNN has a doctor expert named Dr. Leana Wen. Here's what she said.
That doesn't mean that masking doesn't have its place for children when there are very high rates of hospitalization. If we get a new variant in the future that children are particularly susceptible to, we may want to bring masks back. But we should also be intellectually honest and say that masking has had a cost, especially for the youngest learners, people with English as a second language, children with learning disabilities. There has been a cost to them. So the risk-benefit calculation has really changed.
Now, you recall when the great Aldersky ran for governor in California, I said just that, and I was hit. I was called anti-science by CNN. Back to the New York Times. Again, I always try to use left-wing sources whenever I want to advance a proposition. Quote, the benefits of universal masking in schools remains unclear, says the New York Times. Studies in Florida and England, for example, tend to find little effect on caseloads. One study that did find an effect has been largely debunked. This is what the New York Times said this morning. Quote, some experts still favor masks in school, saying that they likely have an effect, even if few studies have yet shown. Now think about this. We're following the science. Here are these experts that support masks are saying, well, there's no science behind it, but maybe someday there will be. Quote, other experts believe mandated school masking is almost worthless. It doesn't work. Michael Osterholm, a University of Minnesota epidemiologist, told me. Me is David Leonhardt, the guy at the New York Times that writes a lot about health. Among the reasons, says Dr. Osterholm, medical masks are designed for adults, not children. Even masks designed for children slip off their faces. Children take off their masks to eat. In addition, Omicron's intense contagiousness and the benefits of mandates may be tiny. It's also relevant that teachers and students who do want to continue masks can do so. No one's stopping them from wearing them if they want to wear them. Quote, for reasons like this, Europe's infectious disease agency does not recommend masking for children under 12. The U.S. stands out for its aggressive use of masks on young children. Back to the CNN doctor expert.
The idea that even if other people around you are not wearing masks, if you wear a high-quality mask, that also protects you, the wearer, too. And so in this case, I'm not saying, I don't think anyone really is saying that no one should ever wear masks, but rather that the responsibility should shift from a government mandate imposed from the state or the local district of the school.
Whoa. Did she say we should shift from government mandates? Didn't I say during the campaign that we ought not have mandates? Didn't I get hammered for being anti-science by CNN? CNN's medical experts are now saying Elder was right?
Government mandate imposed from the state or the local district of the school. Rather, it should shift to an individual responsibility by the family, who can still decide that their child can wear a mask if needed.
We shouldn't have mandates. It should shift to individual responsibility by the families. She didn't just say that, did she? She couldn't have said that.
On the mask mandate.
Not possible. She didn't say that, did she?
The idea that even if other people around you are not wearing masks, if you wear a high-quality mask, that also protects you, the wearer, too. And so in this case, I'm not saying, I don't think anyone really is saying that no one should ever wear masks, but rather that the responsibility should shift from a government mandate imposed from the state or the local district of the school. Rather, it should shift to an individual responsibility by the family, family who can still decide that their child can wear a mask.
So there's little science behind mandating mask wearing for kids. Tell that to Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
Well, the guidance is very clear, which is that we recommend masking in schools. That is the recommendation from the CDC. It is also true that at some point when the science and the data warrants, of course, our hope is that that's no longer the recommendation.
Quote, New York Times, the evidence suggests that the benefits of mandated school masking are modest and the costs are meaningful for some children, probably doing more harm than good.
Back on the mask mandate question in New Jersey and other states, the CDC is still recommending universal masking in schools.
That's correct, and that still remains our recommendation.
Children unable to see faces in classrooms may not be developing emotional skills. Harder time making connections, says the New York Times. Tell that to Joe Biden. I'm Larry Elder.